What is flow state, and why is it that Dru Yoga and Dru Meditation teachers seem to experience it really rather a lot? And why do their eyes go kind of misty with remembered bliss? And that's what it looks like when they recall their experiences of it. What's going on? What I hope to do in this short segment is give you a checklist of why Dru teachers are quite likely to experience flow state rather regularly. And if you're a teacher listening to this, I hope you might use that checklist to make it more likely for you. Because flow state, what is it? It's increasingly sought after in industry, in the top levels of athletic performers, in arts, in musicians, in creative crafts work, in executive training. It's increasingly researched. It's something that the world is beginning to talk about. And it's something that the yogis have been teaching for millennia. So what's happening? It's a state, you could characterize it, you could say it's a state when your attention becomes absolutely absorbed, you become tremendously focused, but in such a way that your level of challenge is just in the sweet zone. Your skill is just enough to be at the peak and the crest of your wave. And in doing so, the absorption becomes such that you lose sense of time and you become one with the task. In short, it's dhyanam on the move, at least the beginning of that. It's deep meditation on the move in the moment, and it's a fabulous state. And actually, when they do tests and functional magnetic resonance imaging within the brain, they discover your focus, your decision making, your memory processing goes through the sky. Memory processing goes through the sky. Your well-being indicators peak. Your ability to be absolutely there, and also cease the default mode network inside the brain, which sometimes ends up being the field in which we second guess ourselves and self-criticize ourselves. It ceases to be so relevant, and instead you're just there on the peak of your game. It's a magical state. One of my dear friends, one of our great yoga teachers, described it to me. She said, as an example, there I was. I'd gone through the beginning of the class. It was nice, we were doing well. And then suddenly, halfway through, I think it was Seed of Compassion that she was describing, halfway through that sequence, suddenly everything went buzz. And somehow I just knew the right thing to say in the right moment, in the right way, and everyone was just there, and we were pulsing together, and the right thing just kept coming out. And I laid them down in Makarasana afterwards, and I turned them over into a stunning Yoga Nidra, and the words kept coming, and the feeling in the room, the resonance between us grew. At the end of it, there they all were sitting up, and I had to put them into meditation, and they just were silently pulsing with the seemed the very essence of life. And afterwards, these words started to come out of my mouth, and she said, I gave them what for? I don't know what came over me. I really laid into them. I told them in very uncertain terms how to make their lives work. And at the end of it, they were all kind of like, wow, thank you. And they went on their ways with this deep stillness around them. And I thought, oh my God, I can't even remember what I've said. But I know I really laid into them. I doubt I'll see any of them ever again. But sure enough, next week, they all turned up, and they're like, whoa, what you said last week, thank you, thank you, thank you for saying it. It was as if you were talking exactly to me, to say exactly what I needed to hear. How did you do that? And that's the great question. So here comes a checklist. What's going on, and what should I do to make it happen? What's really going on is that instead of being in your limited psyche, in your limited perception of the world, there comes a moment where actually something more than just flow state happens, or rather the maturity of flow state in its great fullness happens. The whole group, the whole consciousness of everybody starts resonating. And that resonance is a field of consciousness that the yogis and the mystics have known ever since time began, but which science and humanity is just beginning to experience as a real thing that exists. I think the discovery of that will be one of the defining contributions to history of the 21st century. It's tremendously exciting, and we're the pioneers of it. So as a Dru Yoga teacher, what you're trained to do, or as a Dru meditation teacher, what you're trained to do is help people build resonance in your class. We do that by our personal interactions with people and all the things you've been trained in your teacher training courses. How to compliment, how to address by name, how to be there for people, and most of all, how to open your heart and love them. You've been trained how to help people cease the barriers between each other. We do that with our joy, our laughter, our quips, our intelligence, our wise statements, and above all, our movement and helping people move out of their space, outside of their mat, moving around the room, at least in concept, if not in person, so that instead of being a whole bunch of people inside their castles, we merge into a group of friends. And a group of friends is ripe, fertile soil for the presence of what in yoga is called connecting consciousness. The Sanskrit term technically for it is Vyan Vayu. And it almost feels like some presence larger than you has come into the room and is holding you all. It might be a stillness. My friend described, she said the room went like pseudo-compassion sequence, thick with love. The sequence helps generate that inside you, but the whole room was pulsating with it. And you could tell everyone was feeling it and just lost in the experience. Different sequences, different trajectories create different sensations in Vyan Vayu. It could be profound empowerment and excitement. It could be just sparkling joy. I have another dear friend who's a yoga teacher in Australia, and she describes, she knows she's got it when this just joy bursts out of her, fills the whole room, and people are smiling, their eyes are blazing, and she just knows she's in her zone. It's her nature to be filled with joy. And I have another dear friend, and when he's doing it, stillness. Oh my God, a stillness arrives, and in that stillness, you feel so supported, so upheld. You know that everything is safe. But more than that, you know that all manner of things are well and shall be well, to quote Julian of Norwich. Vyan Vayu, that's what's created when you stand there. Well, how should you stand there? What's actually happening inside you? We've talked about the group and the great insights of group energetics that you're trained in as a yoga and meditation teacher. But what's happening inside you? Well, some magic things. First of all, you've got a general idea that you know what you're doing, except that often this state happens when you do something extra. The state often happens when you suddenly think, oh my God, that person's not getting it. And that person doesn't look like they're getting it either. And oh my God, I'm not quite sure what to do. And something very special happens. Inside, you go, help, help, I don't know what to do, please help me. You reach out to a broader field of consciousness than your habitual mode. And if you're someone who loves life, who gives in general, who yearns to help the people in front of you have a better experience of living, that help will go to a place that's very special. It'll go to the collective field that yearns to support all beings. Have you come across that field? Have you explored it in your life? I bet you have. I doubt you'd be listening to this if you hadn't. That field is there to help us. The yogis talk about the presence of soul force. Thank you. The presence of Devam Shakti. The presence of that indefinable extra that, like Patanjali says, when you head towards it, comes to support and opportunities present themselves. You find yourself in a great new state where problems disappear, solutions appear, and you tread a glorious landscape that is greater by far than anything you ever expected to experience. That's what waits us in flow state. When you reach out and you say, help to the universe, you reach the larger and broader areas of the Vijnanamaya Kosha, that level of awareness which is your consciousness in its purest form. and even perhaps higher than that into Anandamaya kosha, where you experience the raw beauty of the great emotions of spirituality, and there's no sense of I within them. There just is love, stillness, empowerment, beauty, joy. There you are resonating with that. And it comes from that simple, simple statement. Help! Help! I don't know what to say next. It also, a little bit more of the checklist, it also requires you to have a general idea of what you're doing. You need a level of skill that's not outside the challenge presented. It doesn't matter if you feel woefully inadequate to the task, that's irrelevant. But you should be a yoga teacher and you should know what it is to teach a sequence or a meditation, etc. There you are, standing on your mat, yearning to help these people. Now that yearning, that's another key force. You might have prepared your class with the attitude in mind, I really want to help these people. You might even have thought of the individuals in your class and thought, now, this person, how can I help them? What would really help this person? What would help that person? You might have generated a field of care and love and compassion within you. That field is a key. With that, the universe is there to respond. And now suddenly, more than just little old me is standing there. I'm here to change the world, because the world is here to change itself. Okay, well, I hope that gives you a general clue on what initiates flow state. And your experience, you go into the zone where what is speaking through you is something far greater than you as a soul. It's you in all your greatness as a living presence of the loving universe. And why do our teachers feel so great when they recollect such moments? Because they touched all that is, and they became their true selves, and they helped the others in the room do the same. And that's what we're all here to do, I think. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti.